NVIDIA just did something that sounds illegal. They built an artificial intelligence with 550 billion parameters, one of the biggest open models on Earth, and then gave the entire thing away. Not a demo, not an API. The weights, the training data, the recipe, all of it, free, forever. There is a catch, but it's not the one you'd expect. On June 4th, 2026, NVIDIA released a model called Nemotron 3 Ultra, and the headline number is the kind that makes you blink, 550 billion parameters. For scale, that puts it in the same weight class as the biggest frontier models on the planet. But the size isn't the shocking part. The shocking part is the word open. Most so-called open models give you the weights and nothing else, like handing you a cake but never the recipe. Nemotron is different, and we'll get to just how different in a minute. The people who tested it early all said the same first thing: it is fast. Not pretty quick for its size fast. Blazing, genuinely surprising fast. Which immediately raises a question that should bother you. This thing is enormous. Enormous models are supposed to be slow and expensive. So how is one of the biggest open models also one of the quickest? The answer is a stack of clever engineering tricks. 3 of them, really. And they're the most interesting part of this whole story. But before the how, let's talk about why this release matters at all. It comes down to one boring-sounding word that's secretly a huge deal: licensing. Here's the thing almost nobody outside AI pays attention to, and almost everybody should: a license. When a company says a model is open, it usually means open weights. You can download the finished brain, but you don't get the training data, you don't get the method, and the legal fine print often blocks you from actually building a business on it. Nemotron throws that whole pattern out. NVIDIA released the weights, the research paper explaining how it was built, and the training data and recipes, the actual ingredients. And they put it under a new license called OpenMDW, Open Model, Data, and Weights. Why does that matter? Because traditional software licenses like Apache 2.0 were written for code, not for AI models. OpenMDW takes that same do basically whatever you want spirit and rebuilds it for the AI era. You can use it commercially, you can modify it, you can ship products on top of it. The main catch is a fairness clause. If you sue someone claiming the model infringes your rights, you lose your license to use it. NVIDIA's old model license was decent. Call it a 7 out of 10. This one is closer to a 9. For a company this size, that is about as open as it gets. So now, how is it so fast? Okay, so you've got a 550 billion parameter monster. Common sense says every question you ask has to wake up all 550 billion of those parameters. That would be brutally slow and expensive. Nemotron doesn't do that. This is the first trick, and it's called mixture of experts. Instead of one giant brain where everything fires at once, picture a building full of specialists. When a question comes in, the model only wakes up the handful of experts who actually know that subject. Everyone else stays asleep. The numbers are wild. Of those 550 billion total parameters, only about 55 billion, roughly 10%, are active for any given token. So you get the knowledge of a gigantic model, but you only pay the running cost of a model a tenth the size. NVIDIA even adds a twist they call latent MOE, which compresses each token down into a smaller form before deciding which experts to route it to, making the whole handoff cheaper still. The result? NVIDIA reports up to roughly 6 times higher throughput than comparable open models at about the same accuracy. 6 times. That is the difference between an AI that feels sluggish and one that feels instant. But mixture of experts is only trick number 1. Trick number 2 is even stranger, and it's named after a snake. The second trick fixes a problem most people don't even know AI has: memory. A normal transformer, the architecture behind most chatbots, has a quietly insane habit. Every time you add a word to the conversation, it rereads the entire conversation from the start to figure out what to say next. It's like a student who rereads the whole textbook from page 1 every single time you ask them a question. The longer the chat, the slower and more expensive it gets, and it grows painfully, not linearly. Nemotron mostly swaps that out for something called Mamba. A Mamba layer reads the material once and keeps a tight set of compressed notes, remembering the important details and throwing away the filler. It only keeps a few traditional attention layers around for moments that need precise recall. That one change is why this model can handle a 1 million token context window, roughly an entire large codebase or a stack of books held in mind at once, without grinding to a halt. And there are 2 more speed tricks underneath: a 4-bit number format called NVFP4 that cuts the math it has to crunch, and multi-token prediction, where the model drafts several future words at the same time instead of one by one. So it's huge, it's open, it's blazing fast. Time for the catch we promised. And remember, it's not the one you'd expect. The first catch is physical. Free does not mean runs on your laptop. 550 billion parameters need hundreds of gigabytes of GPU memory. You own the model completely, and most people will still have to rent cloud GPUs to actually run it. Free to have is not the same as free to run. The second catch, it's text only. No images, no video, no vision at all. In 2026, that genuinely stings. And the third is the surprising one. For everyday work, fixing a broken setup, organizing files, quick scripts, reasoning over a giant document, testers found it excellent and reached for it constantly. But for hard, from-scratch coding, the really gnarly programming tasks, it stumbled. Black screens, 1,000 lines of code where 200 would do. Smaller, cheaper models sometimes did better. So this is not the one model that does everything. And weirdly, the people who made it would agree, which leads to the real lesson of this release. Here's the mindset shift. You were probably taught to look for the one best AI, the single model that wins at everything. Nemotron is a reminder that that's the wrong goal. The smarter move is a roster. You keep a lineup of models, each covering what it's best at. Nemotron can't see images? Fine. Bolt a small vision model onto it, like a guide dog leading a brilliant but blind genius. Need gnarly code? Route that to a different model. The future isn't one AI to rule them all, it's a team. And zoom out on what just happened. One of the most powerful companies in the world took a frontier-scale model and gave away the weights, the data, and the recipe, under a license that basically says, go build. Every time that happens, the floor under the entire industry rises, and the power to build with AI spreads a little further from the few to the many. That's the part that matters, not the benchmark, the openness. So here's the whole thing in one breath. NVIDIA released Nemotron 3 Ultra, 550 billion parameters, and not just the weights but the data and the recipe too, under one of the most permissive AI licenses out there. It's blazing fast, despite its size, because only 1/10 of it fires at once, because Mamba lets it remember 1 million tokens without rereading everything, and because it counts in 4-bit and drafts several words at a time. The price you pay is that it's huge to run, it can't see, and it's not your best coder. But step back and the headline isn't the model, it's the move. Frontier-scale AI given away to everyone. The technology is racing forward, and for once, it's racing forward in the open. That's the future worth rooting for. If you want the AI world explained without the hype, subscribe to Left Curved AI, big models, plain doodles. Next up, what mixture of experts really means, taken apart piece by piece. Thanks for watching.